their way to this breakout session, and I welcome everybody. This is then the session on the green and smart mobility and transport. And my name is Irene Saeternes, and I will be your moderator in this session today. So Eastern Norway County Network has been active in the BSSSC since very many years. And we held the chairmanship for 3 years in 2017 to 2019. And now we are part of the BSSSC leadership troika. So we have prepared this session for you today, and I hope it will be an interesting almost 2 hours. To open the session and set the scene, I will give the floor to Mr. Ryberg, member of the BSSSC board from Eastern Norway County Network and former chair. Mr. Ryberg is county mayor in region Viken in Norway. So Roger, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Irene. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Baltic Sea friends, good morning to everyone. I here would like to welcome all participants, the ones at the conference venue in Kaliningrad, as well as others taking part in a digital mode, to this parallel session, part of the 2021 BSSSC Annual Conference. The BSSSC and its regions express its deep concern about the outcomes of the report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the so-called IPCC, and recognize serious threats to the Baltic Sea region's climate and its influence on society, environment, economy, and culture. Sustainable and smart mobility and transport is a central topic when you talk about climate change. The European Green Deal calls for a 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from transport to make Europe a climate neutral continent by 2050. Transport is a key, and the greening of mobility must be the new license for the transport sector to grow. Ambitious policies to reduce the use of fossil fuel in transport, as well as new smart mobility solutions, are really needed. Rural and remote regions that constitute a big part of our territory, the Baltic Sea region, have great challenges, as they need better connections and new smart green solutions to meet their transport demand. Young inhabitants of our region are really engaged. They are important change makers for a green transformation to more climate-friendly societies. They are also a very important group of citizens in need of good, secure, and reliable transport. Their advice we'll hear more about later in this program, but we know that they are calling out for green and smart mobility for all. Talking about transport, it is crucial that mobility is available and affordable for all, and that rural and remote regions shall be better connected. Transnational and cross-border cooperation are closely linked to transport and green corridors. And update physical cross-border infrastructure is of major importance, especially railway lines and maritime transport connections, to facilitate a green shift for freight and passengers transport from road and air to rail and sea. The active engagement of regional and local authorities and private partners can help speeding up this transformation process. I therefore underline that implementation of smart and sustainable green mobility solutions must be set in a mix of bottom-up and top-down approach, involving all levels of government and relevant stakeholders. We have a lot of experience and good practices in the Baltic Sea region that can be shared and better disseminated. In today's session, we will get a short presentation from some of them. In addition, we will look at what is in the pipeline and how we can make use of knowledge and financial instruments to move forward. Next month, all global climate actors and decision makers will meet in Glasgow in the United Kingdom for the United Nations Climate Change Conference called COP26. From the BSSSC, we are sending a clear message to urge the conference to significantly increase its efforts to address the climate challenges with concrete measures, taking into account the important role of cities and regions. I wish you all today a fruitful session and an interesting day too of the BSSSC Annual Conference. I hope this will inspire us to move even faster to a climate-neutral Baltic Sea region. Thank you all for attention and good luck with the day. Thank you, Irene. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger. This was a very interesting and to the point speech, and setting us in the right mode and frame our further program in a very good way. So we said that transport and mobility are closely linked to the climate change, and therefore also very important for developing sustainable regions and cities and municipalities in the Baltic Sea. So we know that the Baltic Sea region has cooperated on sustainable mobility and transport for very many years, and a lot of good knowledge and practices have been gathered. And BSSSC constitutes an arena to disseminate and share best practices and results. And in this first part of the session, we have dedicated to share some experiences, both from urban and rural perspective regarding green mobility solutions. So the first speaker is Linda Randall, research fellow at Nordregio. Linda is a social researcher with a particular interest in the intersection between research, policy, and practices. She is specialized in urban and regional planning, social policy, sociology, and youth studies. So Nordregio was a partner in the Interreg BSR project MAMBA, and Ms. Randall will give us some input from this project as well as from some other relevant experiences. So Linda, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne. I'm just going to share my screen here. Oh, I think you need to allow me to do that.
End up in biota and species, animals, and in us humans as well. And we do not know yet.
Hello, Linda.
Hello.
You need to be co-host. Please give me 3 seconds. I need to contact my IT staff, yes? So please be patient and very sorry for this inconvenience.
No problem at all. I can perhaps start a little bit while you're doing that. So as Anne said, my name is Linda, and before I'm going to talk about MAMBA, which was an Interreg Baltic Sea Region program focused on ensuring mobility, accessibility, and innovation in rural areas, particularly those that were struggling with depopulation and aging and shrinking populations. And I guess before I start to talk about MAMBA, I would like to just say a few words about rural transport in general. I think this theme of green, I was really happy actually to hear that within this theme of green mobility that you're also interested to incorporate a rural perspective here. Because I think often when we talk about green mobility, particularly from a policy perspective, from a top-down perspective, we tend to have quite a strong urban focus. So for example, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plans, or the SUMPs, as you're probably quite familiar with, they're a key aspect of EU transport policy, and the EU recommends all cities and towns adopt such plans, and they give really clear guidelines on how to do so. But in contrast to that, I think transport planning in rural areas doesn't receive so much attention from this top-down level. And I have a really nice map that I want to show you as soon as I have the chance about just how rural transport policy looks in the different European countries. So I'll come to that I'll come to that in a moment.
Sorry, dear Linda, may I interrupt you?
Yeah, of course.
You need to leave this room.
Okay.
By clicking this blue button in the right down corner, and
okay.
then you will get co-host function.
Okay.
So you need, unfortunately, to leave us for a moment.
Yeah, and come back with the same link.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay, I'll see you in a moment.
So did we lose her? So where is Linda? I'm very sorry about this. I was sure that this was okay because it was already confirmed in the email that you could share screen. So I didn't put them up for myself, but there you are, Linda. So now,
hey, I'm back. I'm back. This was I hope that you're happy with this map that you're about to see, because we have a lot of suspense building now. I'm going to share the screen. Yes, I can do it now, so that's great.
I'm happy, and once again, sorry for this inconvenience.
No problem at all. Okay, can everybody see the screen with the big picture? Can you all see the?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
good.
I can confirm. I see it too.
Good. So I want to just borrow the people. So I want to just borrow a map from some colleagues at the SMARTA project, actually, to kind of demonstrate this point about rural and urban policy. Oh, you have this. Hang on, sorry, we have this. You can see yourselves here. Hey, I'll bring this down. To the other screen. Okay. So this is a map that was made by the SMARTA project, which was another project focused on rural transport across Europe at the same time that MAMBA was happening. And the SMARTA project focused, they made this mapping of which countries have a specific rural mobility or transport policy with clear objectives and targets. And they actually found that only one European country had a specific rural transport policy with clear objectives and targets. A few more countries had policies, but only with aspirational goals and without target objectives. And most countries did not have a specific rural transport policy. And I think given this, rural areas often rely on kind of bottom-up solutions for sustainable mobility and community-driven solutions. So in that context, I think sharing learnings about how these can be most effective can be incredibly valuable. And MAMBA project emerged with this in mind. So as I said before in the introduction, MAMBA stands for maximising mobility and accessibility of services in regions affected by demographic change. So green mobility wasn't our number one aim. Our number one aim was to be able to provide accessibility to services for people who wouldn't have that accessibility anyway. But of course, green goals were always in the back of our mind. And I think a lot of our learnings are also quite relevant, even if green solutions is your number one aim. So to give you kind of a bit of a context for why we would want to focus on transport accessibility in these kind of areas, I think this OECD sort of circle of rural decline is quite a useful kind of figure. So we see decreasing and aging populations in many rural areas. This makes it difficult to maintain public transport because you don't have the number of passengers to make them cost effective. This reduces the access to services and quality of life in rural areas, which further decreases the attractiveness of life. So, I mean, perhaps a bit simplistic, but I think this is sort of a helpful way of thinking about why we might want to break this cycle. And to bring it into a Baltic Sea region context, this is a map showing population change between 2000 and 2018. And you can see that there's quite a lot of regions that have experienced quite substantial population decline during that period. But I think what's also interesting to note is that this kind of grand narrative of rural decline, it's not universal. So even though a lot of regions and municipalities are experiencing similar challenges, perhaps they're being experienced in different ways in different places and to different extents. So in line with this, the MAMBA project included a range of different solutions, responding to different aspects of this challenge. And I'm going to talk a bit about a few of them. I won't have time to talk about all of them, but I think that while they were quite diverse, the solutions, they all followed quite a similar methodology in the way that they were developed. And that was what we worked together on in the project. So I'll take you through, these are the 4 phases of the projects, and I'll take you through these one by one and give some small examples as I go. So the first phase was around understanding your local context, which might seem pretty obvious, but I think it's amazing. It's actually quite a big job to really think about what's going on here and what's going to work best in this context. So we need to ask about who we want to create accessibility for, what's their socioeconomic status, gender, household composition might be useful to know. What sort of attitudes and lifestyles do we see already? Is this a place where people are using their cars a lot and we want to shift that? Or is it a place where people don't have access to transport at all? Health, of course, is very important. How much assistance will people need to use whatever solution we're putting in place? And of course, age. Secondly, where are we providing this solution? So how does the settlement pattern look? This is quite an important one. Are people quite dispersed within this rural area? Or is there a town centre where the majority of the population live? There might be cultural considerations that come into play. Digital access, for example, even if the infrastructure is there, if the population doesn't have the skills, then digital solutions are not going to work. And safety concerns can also be important, even perceived safety concerns. So if people believe a solution is not safe, it doesn't matter so much if it is or not, they're less likely to use it. And finally, within what institutional setting are we setting up this project? So thinking about resourcing, short, medium and long term, and being realistic about what's possible with the resources that you have. Legal considerations were really important for our pilots. So for example, passenger transportation law can actually act as quite a strong barrier to certain solutions because of the strict requirements. And also who needs to coordinate in order for this solution to work? So who are the key players and how will we bring them together? And I want to just give you an example of one of our pilots that was, I think, quite successful. It was a ride-sharing app in a village, a small village in Växjö in southern Jutland in Denmark. And here the target group were relatively young and able. The proximity of the village was in relatively close proximity to 2 larger urban centres. So this meant that people tended to be going in the same direction at the same time. So for example, either for work or for after school activities for children. And the digital connectivity is quite good in this region, as in a lot of Denmark. And the political and financial conditions were favourable for a public-private partnership. So these contexts all put together actually lent itself very well to this ride-sharing app, and it was quite successful and it's still operational today. The second phase is around vision building and the generation of ideas. And here I want to talk about Halleghüge in Germany. So Halleghüge is a small island off the coast of Germany, has just 109 residents, many of whom are elderly. When the tide is up, the island can only be reached by boat. And the idea here was to implement a social counselling service. And this was particularly around the context of trying to support residents to feel more comfortable ageing in Helihuge. And so this required sort of a high degree of trust from the residents, I guess, and it would also mean building their digital skills a little bit. So the service was designed to kind of increase access to this counselling service, but without necessarily requiring people to travel. So we call this service to people. So the residents weren't, so what was really important in this case was that the residents were involved very early on in building and generating ideas, and that they really felt heard. And by the time the solution was ready to be implemented, they were very much on board with what was to be done. So the third phase, measuring, fine-tuning and preparation. I think in many ways this is can be the toughest one, and certainly in this example from South Österbottnia in Finland, this was the case. So the idea here, this was quite a different solution, you can say. It was, the aim was to consolidate the social and healthcare related transportation to be able to increase accessibility, so increase the number of people that could access services using this social and healthcare transportation, but without actually increasing the number of trips. So just by actually being a bit more coordinated to be able to travel less, but move more people around. And actually, in many ways, it was very smart, this solution, that it was politically aligned with some regional reforms that were going on in Finland at the time. So the healthcare was being moved from the local level to the regional level. But partway through the implementation, this reform was abandoned. So there was a lot of work and a lot of, this is an example, just one picture. I'm sure many of you have sat around these tables, but this project was a lot of sitting around tables, getting stakeholders in line, and just, I guess, being flexible and responding to that change. And finally, I just want to say a couple of words about phase 4, which is implementation, operation and monitoring. And in particular, I want to talk about how we monitor, how we measure our success with these sorts of projects. And I think it can be very easy to when you implement a transport solution, that when you evaluate how is the transport. But actually, for our MAMBA partners, actually the transport itself was not the goal. The goals were very much social and economic. So we had to make sure that when we evaluated our success, that we actually didn't just look at how many more people moved around, but we looked at what did they actually manage to achieve through that movement. So this example comes from Cuxhaven again in Germany. And we asked, the solution is a transport on demand solution. And we asked the participants, the people who took who used the service, how they would have travelled if the service was not available. And almost half of them said that they could not have travelled, actually. They wouldn't have managed to travel at all. But I think what's really interesting is, what did these people do? So what did they do that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise? And a quarter of them, we found, actually went to work. And I think this was quite important because one of the aims of this service was actually to support people to access their jobs and to address, so there was quite they wanted to address some unemployment issues particularly for young people in the region. So I think just, yeah, it was useful to think about not just did we manage to move people around, but actually where did they go and how does that relate to our original aims. So yeah, I hope that was kind of useful. I know, yeah, perhaps we were not having the green target as central to our project, but I think these messages are also quite relevant in any context nonetheless. So know your target group, understand the local context, and consider the institutional setting early on. Get the community on board as early as possible. And be flexible and respond to changing circumstances, and make sure that you have the resources to be able to do that. So keep some of your funds for a rainy day. And finally, make sure that when you ask yourself that question, have we succeeded? Make sure that you evaluate in line with your original goals. And everything that I've told you today is based on much more comprehensive resources that are available at the MAMBA project website. And if you want to talk about any of this, feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for this sort of start to where you had to do some extra.
No worries, it's all part of the fun.
So, very useful information and messages, and I hope you will stay with us so we can come back with questions at the end of the session. So the second speaker is Mr. Colin Hale from the city of Växjö in Sweden. He is a project leader within the sustainable transport and is involved in a wide range of projects related to transport modeling, traffic analysis, and mobility management. And Mr. Hale will share some best practices from an Interreg project called SUMBA. And so I give the floor to you, Colin. Please, we look forward to hear from you. And I hope it will work with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just let me know if it doesn't work.
We can see your presentation. So
perfect. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this bicycle library, which was a pilot that we had that was made possible of Interreg EU project funding. We actually combined two projects to help finance the whole pilot. And basically I wanted to highlight, I'm going to go in a little bit of a detail of what the bicycle library was, and I want to highlight 5 reasons of why every city needs one. So first of all, what is a bicycle library? Well, there's a few different definitions there, depending on what you're familiar with. Some people think that maybe it's a library that only lends out books related to bicycles. In some cases, it could be one of these mobile libraries, like the picture there, where you have somebody riding around with a cargo bike with books that people can borrow. But in this context, we're looking at basically a try before you buy kind of concept. We get inspiration from a normal book library, but we're lending out bikes and different types of bikes, so that with the hopes that people can find the right bike or bike type that suits their daily needs. And are considering maybe buying one themselves. And we hope that with finding the right tool, that the car becomes more or less redundant. A little bit of a difference between a bicycle library and a bicycle pool. A bicycle pool is a bit more flexible with when you pick up and drop off the bike, and usually pay a fee accordingly. Usually there's a limited variety of the types of bikes that are available. And then we usually have the kind of target group of the occasional user, the people who are not necessarily interested in buying their own, but need to use it maybe once or twice a week or once a month or that kind of thing. Whereas a bicycle library usually has more fixed lending periods, maybe about 3 weeks, which is what we've tested. And then you basically test out a bicycle, a type of bike, a cargo bike or a folding bike or something like that. And maybe you can test a few different models before landing on a specific model that that really suits your needs. The idea is not completely unique. I mean, there are several different programs, different countries. We take our inspiration from a system that's been running for a number of years in Copenhagen and Denmark. There's also some smaller examples throughout Sweden, seen some in the UK and some other countries. So here in Växjö, we were very fortunate to have funding from 2 EU Interreg projects. First, SUMBA, which I've been involved with. It has its focus on sustainable commuting, intermodal travel. We've developed kind of a new template or platform for planning for basically writing new planning documents, commuter master plan. We've created a benchmarking scheme for intermodal travel, worked a lot with transport modeling and that kind of thing to help create more fact-based planning documents. And then we also combined with Cobium, which has its focus on better integrating cargo bikes in urban mobility. So we ran up the pilot through 2019 to 2020. We had 2 seasons. We, rather than building up like or having a physical library, we ended up relying on a partnership with 4 local bike shops that lended out the bikes and did the service in between. So they had the direct contact with the people who were borrowing the bikes, which means that the customers had the contact with the experts basically and could ask the important questions. And then, you know, there we had the best possibility for people to understand how the bike works and to find the right solution. We were able to buy in about 25 different bikes, so different bike models, and you see a bit of a taste here. You have a folding bike at the top there that's quite useful, folds up, quite compact, good for combining with the bus and the train, public transit in general. Then we have some electric bikes as well, and those in Växjö, there's quite a few gravel roads if you're connecting different villages, or there's even some nice recreation routes within the city if you want to get a bit more exercise during your commute. So we had some electric bikes that suit that kind of commuting with a bit fatter tires, so you get a bit more comfort. And then we had a number of cargo bikes, 2-wheel variations and 3-wheel variations, so that people could get a sense and a feel for how each type or model worked and find the best solution for them. We had a web-based booking system where people could basically find the bike that they were interested in borrowing, and then find and basically book one of the available lending periods that was available through the system. In the second season, we introduced a lending fee, a small lending fee. It was about 20-30 euro. The idea here was to try and focus on our target group of people who were considering buying one themselves, rather than people who just wanted to borrow a bike for a weekend and thought it was fun. That's good too, of course, because we want to promote these new experiences and things with these bikes, but really we wanted to focus on the target group of people who were looking at buying their own. We also found that the fee would promote a type of self-sufficiency, create a more sustainable project, because we're always thinking, how do we help this project to live beyond the project time of 3 years? And so that's kind of where we're at now with the project, is looking at creating a more permanent service. And so then lastly, we had a survey which people who borrowed the bikes, which they could fill in, give some feedback on how it worked with a bike, how it worked with the infrastructure, how it worked with the service, and the service, the customer service at the bike shops as well. So now I just want to go through those 5 reasons of why cities need a bicycle library. And here I basically assume that, you know, most cities, if not all, are trying to increase their cycling modal share, which in essence, it involves replacing car trips with bike trips. So we're trying to find the right solution that, as I mentioned, makes the car redundant. And then we assume that these cities, they have some goals related to climate, sustainability, sustainable transport, goals related to increasing attractiveness of urban and rural areas, and also public health and well-being. And basically these come out from our experiences and the results from the project. So the first one is you basically prompt a development of a local cycling culture. And the cycling culture of a city is basically how people ride, what type of bikes they use, for what purposes, how much money they typically spend on a bike. We have a fairly homogeneous cycling culture in Växjö. Anyway, when we started up the project, where people typically use a fairly standard, very basic standard bike for usually short distances within the city center. The problem with this is basically when you go beyond this, when you have longer distances, when you're trying to transport children, you're trying to make connections with public transit in the last mile, the last kilometer. It becomes a problem for these standard bikes where it's quite limited. So the idea here is that we want to offer a wide assortment of bikes on the market, but the other problem is that these often are not available in the shops. So it's important for us to work with the bike shops to try and bring them in so that people can see them and try them out and introduce them. It's kind of like if you want to buy a car, you know, you want to try it out before you buy it. And this is especially the case now that that's shopping via internet and websites and things and ordering and getting them delivered. This is the case for the cycling industry as well. And now you might have a good partnership with even local actors who maybe can bring in a bike for you that you can test out beforehand. So number 2 is basically what happened is we increased the visibility and we're able to inspire more people to think about cycling in a different way. If the bikes don't exist on our streets, these specialty bikes, these cargo bikes, or these folding bikes, these gravel bikes that we also had, and people don't think about them. They don't consider it to be a good option for transport or commuting. We say in Växjö that we doubled the number of cargo bikes overnight. We're not talking big numbers. We can say that it went from maybe about 7 to 14. And in the start of the project, it was very rarely that you saw a cargo bike on the streets, maybe once a week, once a month, that kind of thing. But now it's up to daily, and you might see several cargo bikes every day. You know, during your commute, see them parked in the city center there by the shops. So that's really positive. How much of that has been completely influenced by the bicycle library, it's hard to say, but we think we've made an impact there. And this, of course, is important for the local context as well, that people understand that this is not just a relevant culture for Danish people and Dutch people, that this can work in our own cities and contexts as well. So number 3, we adapt to a changing mobility. We show that our city is progressive. It's very trendy right now to go more towards or shift towards a people-based transport system, making the transport system, making the roads, the streets more bicycle friendly, more pedestrian friendly, increasing the sense of the safety and the sense of security and that kind of thing. Right now, we have a number of bicycle booms, in part because of COVID. People want to buy bikes. They want to buy electric bikes. I don't know if you're familiar with Eurobike. It's one of Europe's largest bicycle trade shows. According to best guesses, about 80% were electric assist. Cargo bikes are booming as well, with new models and companies coming all the time. And this is for person transport, but also for goods transport. There's all the time coming new forms of micromobility. We have the electric scooters that are coming in, whether some cities want them or not. We now have electric scooters in our city, despite the fact that they don't have permission to be here. So we're having to deal with that. We also were able to identify the new challenges and things with changing mobility, with high-priced cargo bikes, for example. What are the options for insurance? I mean, a lot of times there aren't options for insurance for these expensive bikes. But we've also found new business models coming up. We had one partner boutique has started leasing cargo bikes and electric bikes for those who maybe want to ride. They want to use the bike for a little more often, but maybe not prepared to buy just yet. Number 4, so we use this as a tool to strengthen our mobility management and that kind of work. We can complement some of the soft measures as well as the hard measures. If you build a new cycling route that connects a particular neighborhood with the city center, then you can communicate this and say, okay, the people who live in this neighborhood, you can borrow an electric bike or a different type of bike for a weekend. So you're both testing the bike, you're testing the new route and seeing how that can function. We work with the Bicycle Friendly Workplaces project, where it's kind of a partnership or a competition with local workplaces to improve the conditions for cycling. And there the employers can basically buy in a few lending periods for their employees so that they can get better access to commuting with different bikes. We're working right now with an extension project for SUMBA. It's called SUMBA Plus. We have Tartu and Altona that are with us again in this extension project. They were inspired by the example in Växjö, and now Tartu has funding to start up their own bicycle library. And this also complements their bike hire system. So it's interesting to see that they identify these are different target groups. Altona has been working a lot with Quiet Streets program, and they're also looking at a pre-study during the SUMBA Plus extension project to see how a bicycle library could help people find new solutions, people who live in these quiet areas where they've implemented traffic calming and even closed streets down to car traffic for the most part. So they can see how they can use the bike in a different way. So we see some complementing projects there. And lastly, number 5, we work with the feedback on the barriers to increase cycling. Of course, you have the traditional ones, the distance, the weather, which, you know, a lot of times you can solve that with an electric bike. With the weather, you can wear, maybe you have your rain jacket without the concern about getting sweaty. But with this comes higher vehicle speeds as well. So there's some safety concerns with expensive bikes. There's the considerations for theft and parking. We found in our survey that cost was still a hinder. People still see the bicycle more as a hobby thing, so people don't like to spend a lot of money on their bikes. So this is still a bit of a barrier that we're trying to work with. And of course, it's the uncertainty with change. People are in their daily routines, and we hope that this try before you buy concept is a good first step. So I just want to round up here. There's a number of different resources. You can go into Cobium's website. There's a lot of different tips and lessons from the bicycle library, as well as some other examples from Denmark and Poland who have done similar sort of test cycling projects. We are working right now on a bicycle library cookbook with lessons from Växjö as we work to make our service permanent, as well as lessons from Tartu and Altona in their work. And of course, you're free to contact me with any questions you have, or if you're maybe interested in applying for funding for your own bicycle library pilot project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Colin. This was very interesting example, and especially then, I guess, for many of the cities and the smaller towns, this would be definitely very interesting to learn from you. And I see that this is involving then a lot of different actors to really make use of this cycling sharing as well as you do when you are buying a car. You want to check it out, or before you use this kind of money to buy one. So very interesting to hear. There is I don't know, we are going next to Kaliningrad, and I don't know exactly, they are also having to jump out and go back. So when they do so I hope they will do this now, and then we can just maybe ask you a question that you could say something a little bit how you work together in the partnership to test and develop this bicycle library. So how did they, let's say, the different partners from different countries sort of contribute to the idea or to the project? So if you shortly could do that, while our Kaliningrad friends will make sure that they could come in next and share their presentation. So thank you. Yep. Colin.
Yeah. This pilot was basically specific for Växjö. We didn't have a lot of participation from or a lot of work from the other partners in the project. I think that maybe came later on when, for example, Tartu decided that they wanted to start up their own project, their own pilot in the extension phase project. But I can say that one of the important factors for starting up our library here in the local context was establishing a good partnership with the local bike shops. They're important actors, and we held a number of meetings very early on in the process to understand how this project could work, identifying the costs involved with service, the amount of work time that would go in to help customers, understanding the roles and responsibilities of each actor in the process, how much the municipality would be contributing with the booking system and with marketing, as well as we basically had a payment scheme for every bike that was lent out. We paid a bit of money to the shop for wear and tear on the bikes and that kind of thing. As going back to kind of the work with the other partners, I mean, the bicycle library is kind of an interesting pilot that we can present, and it has inspired a lot of other cities, both in Sweden and internationally and in the Baltic Sea region. So it's good to see as well that we were able to help Tartu establish their bicycle library. And again, we can take our experiences and our lessons learned from Växjö and say, yep, this is what we found, and these are our suggestions. One thing we didn't work with was goods transport and working maybe with small businesses. So that's something that Tartu was looking at more. That was also important in being able to apply for additional funding through the extension phase project, is identifying those as differences. Växjö and Tartu are different cities, different cultures, different contexts. So we work together to understand how this type of system, this type of pilot could work in Tartu in their own context, but also to create a project that was unique enough that the Joint Secretariat felt, yes, we want to finance this. This is interesting for us. There was a bit of skepticism in the beginning there, but it worked out in the end. And then looking at the example in Altena, they were also they've been a project partner from the beginning in the main stage project and again in the extension phase project, and they've been working with these quiet streets in their borough. And you know, it was a bit of a controversial project to work with. It was a part of another project, so it wasn't involved in SUMBA, but they're using the knowledge that we gained from the SUMBA project. They go, okay, how do we address some of these concerns of people? People feel like they need the car to run their errands, to take their kids to school, to pick up their shopping, you know, that kinds of things. But if we can introduce these different types of bikes and circulate them in these areas that are, you know, been working with traffic calming and reduce traffic and that kind of thing, then people start to see, okay, maybe this could work instead. Maybe I don't need to have a car. And you have a city that has good public transit and they have good sharing schemes, and maybe a bicycle would be good for the day-to-day travel, and then it could be complemented by public transit and sharing schemes as well.
Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you very much for your contribution to the session. I know you have to leave now, so I would ask people could go into I guess the presentation will be shared by the organizers, and they can contact you if they have any questions in later on.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, thank you. Now we will go back to we go to the directly to Kaliningrad, to the conference venue of this year's BSSSC annual conference. And I will give the floor to Mr. Vladimir Zhutan, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure Development of the Kaliningrad region. So please, Mr. Zhukov, the floor is yours.
Can you hear? Can you hear the translation? Good morning, dear colleagues. Good morning, dear partners. If you can hear us,
yeah,
you hear us.
You can hear you. Please continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this wonderful conference in which we have been taking part today, and to give, I will try to, in my presentation, I will try to dwell on several practical issues which the government of the Kaliningrad region tackles, and the Kaliningrad region itself is tackling in the development of eco-mobility and green transport. All the issues which are of concern not only to the population of the Kaliningrad region today, but what is most important, it is our future, it is tomorrow. Definitely transport, public transport is indispensable part of the urban environment. It saves time, it is mobility, it allows people to concentrate on performing different activities even while moving. However, according to our calculations, more than 90% of the population do not even believe that pollution of air in large cities is the effect of transport. It should be mentioned that the majority of people do not know that and do not think about the consequences of using their private cars, which is typical of our Kaliningrad region in particular. In Kaliningrad itself, when there is really a surplus of private cars, and the solution of this problem in our understanding could be comfortable and convenient public transport, and also the development of ecological modes of transport and a replacement of normal petrol run and diesel automobiles. Considering the importance and the urgency of the ecological heritage in the region, we implement a number of programs aimed at the development of green transport. The Kaliningrad region is one of the several pilot regions of the Russian Federation, where within a large-scale program of Rosseti, they are developing the electric charging infrastructure to introduce public electric and private electric transport, and we are developing the electric charging stations network. Within this program, the joint stock company Saeternes is actually electric charging stations in the territory of the region for electric vehicles. At the moment, in the territory of the region, we have approximately 10 electric charging stations which have been installed at parking areas in resort cities and also in the Kaliningrad, in the city of Kaliningrad. According to the concept of the development of production and the use of electric vehicles in the Russian Federation for the period up to 2030, the network of electric charging stations in the Kaliningrad region will be extended significantly. In addition to that, according to this concept, on the basis of the limited liability company Avtotor, by 2023, it is planned to launch assembly of electric vehicles. Kia and Hyundai of leading producers in automobile industry. Today, the government of the Kaliningrad region, and you can say yesterday actually, since 2018, the government of the Kaliningrad region has implemented a measure of support of electric vehicles, those who are using electric vehicles by just freeing them from transport tax. And we believe that this support measure is very significant in order to give an impetus and kind of push people to use in the territory of the region electric vehicles. In my presentation, I would like to emphasize and to speak about the extension of the park of automobiles which use natural gas as motor fuel. At the moment in the region, we are working on the implementation of the roadmap of the development of the market of natural gas fuel for 2019-23, signed, by the way, yesterday in St. Petersburg, the government of the Kaliningrad region and Gazprom, they signed an agreement on the development for the coming 5 years in the territory of the Kaliningrad region, the market of natural gas fuel, which will give us an opportunity to build additionally a number of NGV stations, filling stations. At the moment, we have 6 units at the moment, and those and other kinds which you can see in our plans up to 2024 and further. We are planning to build up to more, to build 12 NGV stations, which will be able to provide fuel to those vehicles which run on natural gas in the region. I would like to notice that quite recently in the territory of the region in 2016, we only had a few just cars, about 20 NGV cars which used this kind of fuel. I would like to emphasize that today more than 1,000 cars run on natural gas fuel and are involved in this. They are part of private cars and public transport, and they are also involved in services in the territory of the Kaliningrad region. And of course, we are we are not using other types of fuel and thus reducing pollution. In addition to filling stations in the territory of the Kaliningrad region, we also have a network of service infrastructure for those vehicles which run on NGV fuel. We have more than 10 of those, and in the future, provided that the agreement was signed, which was signed yesterday in St. Petersburg, this network will be extended. Also, I would like to mention a number of other practical activities which are done by the Kaliningrad regional government. I'm talking about the renewal of public transport the city of Kaliningrad is kind of facing the surplus of transport in the territory where we live. In connection with that, a lot of huge fumes, pollution we face, and we came to a conclusion that it's necessary to develop ecological types of transport. A decision was made by the governor of the Kaliningrad region, Mr. Alexander, to provide the measure of support in the form of subsidies to the municipality, the city of Kaliningrad, as financial support to pay leasing payments. And in competition, the company Kaliningrad Gortrans won, which in the coming years will buy tram carriages, and also buses, up to 60 buses, which will run on ecological type of fuel. And we really hope that next year this deal will be concluded, and Kaliningrad, in the city of Kaliningrad, we will have buses running on ecological fuel. I would like to say a few more words on the projects which are being implemented, the development of bicycle infrastructure. When we developed technical tasks for the construction and reconstruction and automobile roads, where everywhere where it was technically possible, we assume the implementation of bicycle lanes. Moreover, it happens, what we can see here on the slide, we have such bicycle routes, bicycle lanes in Kaliningrad along the roads in a large micro district, and on Oktyabrski Island, and on other streets and in other districts in the Kaliningrad region. I would like to dwell upon, especially on a symbolic project of the construction of the bicycle route on the territory of Primorskaya recreational zone along the Baltic Sea coast, on the from speed to speed, from Curonian speed to the Baltic speed. The concept of this route presupposes running of this lane with maximum approximation to the sites of historical and cultural heritage, to the recreational zone, to tourism attractions, in order to show the Kaliningrad region with the maximum possible points to develop the positive kind of image of the Kaliningrad region. The route of the bicycle lane runs through the historical centers of resorts, Zelenogradsk, Pionirsk, Svetlogorsk, Yantarny, and Baltisk, which with the preserved historical developments and buildings and monuments. Where it is possible, this route is laid in the immediate proximity to the coast, to the shore of the Baltic Sea, in picturesque areas, in the recreational zones. The route of the bicycle route is divided into three parts, and the length of the route is more than 33 kilometers of one of the stages. You perhaps have seen that quite recently with stakeholders, with the involvement of stakeholders from the European Union, we kind of had the show, we had a presentation of the first stage, and the colleagues who came here, they had an opportunity to try out one of the stages. And as far as we understand, and as far from what we heard, that they have really appreciated this, they gave an excellent kind of mark to this bicycle lane. We are going to continue within the program of cross-border cooperation program, Russia-Poland. We are going to continue this project, and we really believe that and this co-financing, which is granted by the European Union and the funds from the Russian Federation, will be spent in due time. And we would like to invite you to the Kaliningrad region to take a look at the beautiful region. Well, wonderful people live. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tutun. This was a very interesting contribution about the activities in the field of green mobility in the Kaliningrad region. So we are a little bit later than I was hoping for at this point, but so I think if it's okay with you, we just continue to finish in the second part of this session, where we wanted to look a little bit about the ongoing possibilities for future developments within the smart and green mobility. And we have invited as the first speaker in this part of the session, Mr. Espen Strand Henriksen, who is a mobility developer in the public transport provider Kolumbus in Rogaland County in Norway. And for all BSSSC friends and colleagues, so this is then the region where BSSSC was founded back in 1993. So our first conference in the BSSSC was gathered in Stavanger. So Espen, we are looking forward to hear your contribution. Please, the floor is yours.
I will try to start by sharing my presentation, I hope. If I am able. Okay, just hang on, give me a few seconds here. It looks like I just need to, there we go. It seems like I actually have to leave and then get back again, and then it will be fine. Sorry about that.
Okay, so seems that we still have some problems regarding the option to share presentations. So we will just come back.
Sorry, Irene, I interrupt you, but now Mr. Espen was able to actually share the screen. So I really don't know what is happening now.
No, but then hopefully we will come back, and then
yes.
I also have his presentation, so then I will try to share it if possible.
Okay.
So sorry about that,
are you able to share the presentation now, Espen?
Yes, but now the host disabled participant to screen sharing, so I need the host to actually allow me to share my screen, apparently.
No, they said that was okay, so you should just share your screen.
Yeah, but it's a pop-up window that says host disabled participant screen sharing. So
Agata, what do you say, Agata? Can we?
Or maybe we can rearrange the order of the presentations if the next one is ready, and then we can fix the problem with Agata if it takes too long.
So, Nikolai, are you there and ready to jump in, and then we can come back to Espen afterwards? Yeah. So then we will go back again to Kaliningrad and to our youth voice, and I would like then to give the floor to our member of the BSSSC, Nikolai Nikitin. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Hello, dear friends. I would like to tell you that the contribution which youth wants to bring into the development of sustainable mobility, an example of two projects which are being implemented on the territory of Kaliningrad region. point of view of transport science, young people have the profile of demands connected with transport. It's connected with their limited incomes, their high educational solutions, and also the openness to everything and desire to apply everything on practice, new technologies. The modern person is very practical and appreciates their time and ready to plan their commuting by different means of transport. So the mobility as service is very urgent nowadays, thanks to the interest from young people. This task can be solved quickly and efficiently. For example, Kaliningrad region includes young people in problem solving connected with ecology, urbanistics, and transport. One of these examples is traineeships in governmental bodies in some other institutions. Thanks to this practice, there is a process of so-called education. Young people understand the transport planning, how it's going on, and the public transport is popularized, and young youth communities are created. Thanks to youth and their innovative ideas, we can elaborate the concepts of sustainable green mobility. Involvement of young people in this design of this problem can bring to development of the digitalization of transport complex. For example, now Kaliningrad youth who are connected with ecology and IT work at the introduction of different prospective projects connected with transport. And I would like to say about two of them. The first project is dedicated to the public transport, the green roofs of public transport and bus stops. Green roofs are not practical, and they are able to reduce the temperature inside the bus up to 4 degrees, which will reduce the costs on thermoregulation in some season. For watering this system, we can use the accumulated condensate from the bus, which will bring to the reduction of water waste. At our university, we have one faculty which is designing the prototype of this, the prototype of this screen of this roof. The second project is connected. The possibility of realize such a project is a green bus stop. The creating of additional green zones in a more populated and parts of the city. We can get up to 20 square meters of greenery. Any time of the year, these plants won't need watering because they will have the system of water accumulating. These green roofs can hold quite a lot of rain, which will lead to the reducing of load to sewage system, storm sewage system. The results of this research demonstrated that this will bring to the reducing of temperature inside the bus stop. For example, ordinary bus stops can heat up to 40 degrees, and together with green roofs, this temperature reduces up to 7 degrees. And one more advantage is these green roofs can produce a lot of oxygen. The second project is dedicated to cycling, which is, because of the coronavirus, so is expanded quite rapidly. The learning of cycling flows is very important because we want to develop our transport and cycling system during the digital period. To get this result for this statistics, people use manual count. It is still used, but sometimes they can be not objective. But sometimes people who answer the questions can say wishful thinking. It's some kind of a wishful thinking, and because of this, cycling infrastructure can be undemanded, but thanks to active development of these technologies, it is possible to collect the data more accurately. My colleagues from the Research Center of State of City Technologies, together with Baltic Federal University, have designed a service which allows us to collect data from mobile devices and other applications. This Velo Line system has given us a possibility to accumulate all the data, a number of cyclists, a number of cycling sites, and a number of accidents which are connected with cyclists, and also weather forecast. Such information can be used both for active monitoring and analysis of the cycling movement and for automatic calculation of metal frame cycling frames, which can be used, of course, in the future. This data are going to be more effective, and this data and correspondence can be used for the work of ministries, making projects and finding new ways of development of cycling movement. And in conclusion, I would like to say that special attention should be paid to the development of cooperation and creation of the bank of data, of the database on popularization and development of cycling sport and involving young people to the solving of this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, for this very thorough and creative input. So many good proposals, especially regarding the involvement and engagement of young people. So thank you very much. We will hope to see how much time we have for questions and come back. So I hope you stay with us. So now we will go to Espen, as I introduced beforehand. So please, let's see if everything works now, please. Espen Strand Henriksen.
Yes, thank you. It looks like it. So I'm going to share my presentation. And
we can see it now. So if you put it on presentation mode, so everything is okay. So
is it on presentation mode now?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you for the invite. My name is Espen, and I work with mobility at Kolumbus, which is the PTA, so the public transport authorities on the west coast of Norway. And yeah, that's the arrow indicates where we are located at Stavanger. So we are owned by the county municipality. We have around 75 employees, and we are given the operational responsibility for mobility in the region. So we used to be a PTA working with public transport services, but now we are working on a broader level. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this kind of 10-15 minutes going on. So we live in the kind of the oil capital in Norway, in the Stavanger region, and it's the most car-based region in Norway. And it used to be called Little Texas due to all the oil that was pumped up from 1969 and going for today. But luckily, the world is constantly changing, and we need to change both politics and behavior to achieve different kind of ambitious goals, both locally, nationally, and internationally, as you all are well aware of. So for Kolumbus, that also that also gives us the opportunity to have a new and broader strategy. So we need to make it easier now to move around in our region without using or owning your own car. That's a kind of the core of our strategy. But like 5 years ago, it was all about selling more and more bus tickets. So the angle and the perspective has kind of broadened very much. So this is just different kind of revenue streams from the county and from ticket sales and others. But this gives us the opportunity to set in motion different kind of pilots and projects and concepts. And what we can brag about in our region is that we have put this into system. So this is kind of, we have the digital infrastructure on top, like a kind of a mobility as a service infrastructure. And then we have different kind of services on the left. I guess you see all these kind of pictures now. And so we work with regular buses. We have different kind of services which we are piloting, and we have boat and ferries and trains and micro mobility, and also car as a service and different other concepts. And I would like to use a couple of minutes just highlighting some of these projects. So I would like to talk 2 minutes about, or 1 minute about the city e-bike. We started with city e-bikes back in 2014, and we kind of launched our new city e-bike model in last year. And one of the kind of key factors there is that we have included the use of a city e-bike into the public transport ticket. So if you have a valid bus ticket, you also have 15 minutes or even up to 60 minutes of the use of city e-bike included. And all of our city bikes are electric, so they are really, really fantastic to use. So that's the city e-bike project, or the concept and the product. And also what I have been working I've spent a lot of time on the last couple of years is establishing a car sharing network. And we are just about to launch this network of shared EVs, so electrical vehicles. That starts the 18th of October, so just in like 1 week time. And Kolumbus's role in this market is that we are basically coordinating the market. So we, on one hand, we are coordinating the real estate owners, which have different kind of projects, building houses and flats, and also renting out for different businesses. And they would like to have services like car sharing to be more attractive. And on the other hand, we are trying to kind of merge the parking spots or the area with the different kind of car sharing companies, and giving the customers access to shared cars through our the Kolumbus app. So that's the car sharing project, which is really new and exciting. None of the different cities around in Norway, at least, and I guess also in a lot of different other countries around in Europe, has kind of those similar kind of collaboration and the different coordinating roles. Sorry. And then we also working a little bit of what we call mobility hubs. So that's basically where infrastructure meets mobility. So then we are trying to work out to kind of, from a planning point of view, to figure out where different kind of mobility hubs can be located in the region. And then we also are in the process of kind of designing them with pictograms and signs and all those kind of things that needs to be kind of on a communication level, needs to be similar on different kind of mobility hubs, and also around in Norway, not just in the Stavanger region. And we're also trying, of course, to figure out where it's strategic to have those kind of locations. And of course, which kind of services are supposed to be located in those hubs. So that's, I think those three are worth highlighting. And to finish off, I would also like to highlight 3 other concepts or projects. And that's, to start with, that's the autonomous buses. We started with the autonomous bus project back in 2017 even before the kind of the laws and legislations and regulations were finished. So we have to have the pilot on a closed area to test it. And then we were the first in Norway to have an open pilot on normal road, but very controlled area in 2018. And now we have a new pilot in the city of Stavanger, just kind of like 1 kilometer route where this kind of small autonomous buses is driving. So for the moment, it's all about gaining experience from the use of self-driving technology. It's not very much attractive for the people to use because it drives quite slow. You can at least run past it or a bicycle past it. So it's more like a technology focus for the moment. And then we have what is called the TRAM project. That's a European Union's finance project. And the problem in our region, and I guess in a lot of regions, is that our boats and ferries, they account for just about 3% of the total fleet, including buses then, and also the total amount of passengers. But they account for around 50% of the emissions. So it's a big pollution problem. So the TRAM project is supposed to be the world's first electric speedboat in regular routes in the Stavanger harbor area, and it's planned to be launched in next year. So in around a year's time, that will be on the sea. And the last thing is probably the most kind of radical thing as well. It's a new payment solutions. So we are waving bye-bye to tickets and zones, which are basically old business models, just being transformed onto digital platforms. So soon you will be able to just hop on and hop off the bus or the boats or the trains, and then the system behind the apps will figure out the best possible price for you. So all the kind of tickets like a 30-day ticket or just a single ticket, you as a consumer, you don't have to take those kind of decisions all the time. The system will figure out the best price for you. You just travel. So that was basically that on Irene. I thought those projects were very interesting from our point of view, and I would like to thank you for those around 10 minutes, I guess, of time. And questions now or maybe later, Irene?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I have a little question because before in the presentations today, so there was a lot of focus on customer involvement or let's say making solutions in line with what was expected or needed. So I just wanted to hear if how you are thinking target groups and what if this new solutions fits all, or is it then sort of different for young and old or citizens in the city of Stavanger or the rural areas around? So how do you work with the citizens and the target groups that they are able and ready and to use all these new mobility solutions and technological solutions?
Yeah, so the technology is just kind of a measure to kind of get to do something which hopefully will make the everyday life of the citizens easier to get around. So and of course we are working, or we do have different target groups that could also be geographical target groups, like you mentioned, maybe in the city centers or the more urban areas compared to the more rural areas. But what we mainly would like the kind of the citizens to do is to kind of we would like them to be able to become what we call flexilists, which is like it's easy to mix different kind of solutions. So instead of just saying that the car is the main problem, we're also trying to build a bridge for those car fans with a car sharing service, for instance. So we would like it easier for them to not have to buy one or several cars. So if we can make it easier to lower the barriers to become what we call then flexilists, that's the kind of main overall objective. But the city e-bike has been a huge success. We are also working on scooters, the electrical scooters, which is on a low key for the moment. But I think we just need to kind of broaden the services so we can be more attractive for those kind of customers that are basically or normally not using the bus. So we need to kind of just hit broader and hit more of those car-loving target groups as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think, of course, I guess you evaluate all these pilots and you get some input from the users, which is also a way of, let's say, testing that everything is in line with what users would like, and that you could adapt a bit to what will be then their, let's say, preference.
Yes, correct. So one of the projects I didn't kind of highlight now is a business-to-business project called the Home Work Home, Hjem Jobb Hjem in Norwegian. And we have evaluated that project, and it's been and the main target is that we would like people to use less car into work or to and from work, and that kind of just concept where we are working together with the different companies to lower the use of cars has been quite a decent success, or very much successful. And that's based on the university or scientists that have been evaluating those kind of that particular project.
Thank you very much again, Espen. And I'll also, before we go to the last speaker, who is then also presenting some of the possibilities for maybe funding projects together, where you could maybe even lift out some of the ideas from the presentation of Espen or others into the new program. I just wanted also to come back to Kaliningrad, if possible, to ask Nikolai a question about this user involvement and how it feels that the young people are sort of invited in to present their ideas, and how he can sort of give advice to the planners and the producers about how to involve young people into this new development of smart and green mobility. So Nikolai, would you please say a few words how to make the young people involved or heard or listened to? So we can't hear you, so you are muted. So,
I got you right. How we can involve young people in these projects. Did I get you right?
yes, that was it.
Yeah. In my example, I showed how young people are involved in this project thanks to the appearance of new ideas from the point of view designing of new services, which can either attract attention to some problem or show that in some place we need to find in transport infrastructure taken into consideration the cycling movement, traffic. And thanks to these initiatives, it is possible to include or involve people, young people in this project. Also, students of our universities also do research, a lot of research. For example, green bus stops. It's also a result of one of these scientific research of one of our universities. the creation of the platform how to monitor the cycling traffic is a project of another university of our colleagues who designed this platform. They approached to us to evaluate, to assess this project in scientific way, and to create a number of mathematical models.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, for that extra perspective. And I think we should keep that a little bit in mind, maybe asking also a question to the program presentation afterwards, how to move on also with the ideas coming from our young people. So I will now start to introduce my last speaker, and then we will see what time we have for questions after that. So this is my colleague working with the Interreg Baltic Sea program. I'm so lucky to be part of that as well. And it is now a presentation of the new possibility to support green mobility and transport in the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program 2021-2027. And Attila Darabos from the Joint Managing Authority Joint Secretariat in Rostock will give us a small glimpse into this priority. So Attila, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Do you see now the presentation?
Yes, we see it.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So it's really a pleasure to be here, and yes, now I will have to present this long work we did together with Joint Programming Committee, and what's the situation now concerning our program. It's so nice to see that a lot of our projects already realized many things, and Baltic Sea region is a pioneer in many mobility issues, many mobility topics, and this experience should be shared, and steps should be made further. So that's what our program will try to do also in the future. So I present here basically the topics I would like to speak very shortly about. What's coming concerning financial possibilities. The program is not yet approved, but I can say that approximately we will have the same quantity of money or funding, so around 250 million or a bit more. I will present the priorities. I will speak a bit about shipping, and separately, because now we don't have a priority for all the transport topics, but it's a bit shared between priorities. So this I would like to explain already now, in order to make it easier to understand. Then of course smart green mobility and about timing. So when what will come. So these are our program priorities for 21-27. So we have 4 priorities. We have innovative societies, water smart societies, and this is the place for the shipping. Climate neutral societies, priorities 3. This is the place for smart green mobility, and cooperation governance is the 4th priority. Here you can see more exactly. So we have basically 7 topics under the 3 priorities, and here I wanted to show. So we have priority 2, water smart societies, which is the place for blue economy, and in blue economy is shipping. So that's where shipping projects applications should come and make steps concerning this topic. And priority 3, climate neutral societies, is the place for smart green mobility. So and maybe it can help those who would like to apply and to see these different places for different topics in the project. We had our kickoff event, and I can say that smart green mobility. So we asked people, where would you like to consider to apply? So what are the level of interest? And it seems that for smart green mobility, this 18% was the second topic concerning the number of interested people. So mobility is always interesting for research, is interesting for politicians, is interesting for our everyday life. So it's there. So, and then let's go in some details. Of course, time is limited. I will not explain all the details, but as I introduced already, so shipping is in this program objective 2.2 blue economy. It's about water, generally use of water, seawater, fresh water, marine resources, and beside aquaculture, blue biotechnology, shipping is there, and fishery, coastal and maritime tourism. So this is the place for the shipping. And what kind of actions would we like to fund? So it's about environmental standards and clean, digital, eco-efficient solutions on ships and in ports to reduce emissions. So basically, as it has already been presented, pollution is very much a topic also concerning shipping, and to find clean solutions, to introduce digitalization, eco-efficient solutions. This is a very important part of the shipping sector. And then, of course, if we discussed about autonomous buses, then autonomous ships can be another topic for the future program. And of course, all this remote navigational support and this topic is also, we invite projects to come for these topics. And then we can go to priorities 3, and inside this priorities 3 we have program objective 3.3, smart green mobility. Why do we address mobility? So I think many of the presentations already emphasize that, yeah, we have the problem that we need mobility, but still we have this problem with emissions, with different pollutions, and then transport is an important part, and this problem has to be solved. Then of course, in most of the cases, the urban areas are the center of this pollution. So if we find a solution for urban areas, then this might help a lot. And this example from big cities can be brought to other cities or even to rural areas, as it has been presented. Then big topic is the how to introduce and how to change to green and alternative fuels. So beside electricity, it's hydrogen, there are different solutions, but all this infrastructure or these topics have to be also piloted and to find practical solutions. And of course, digitalization is always a topic. So use of information and big data and cloud and all these important digitalization elements can be part of the future projects. What do we do exactly? So we would like to help people to this seamless and movement of people and goods and to save resources and reduce pollutions, and to help especially public authorities, but of course also private companies and research to be part of this important changes in the mobility. And what can we help you with? So what kind of solutions are we looking for? So we cannot forget that we are a transnational project. So and there are different solutions in different parts of the Baltic Sea region. So we would like to harmonize mobility systems on national level, on local level, on regional level. So all these different kind of elements should be harmonized between different countries. Then in the beginning, it was already mentioned how important part are these sustainable urban mobility plans. So they can lead into this direction, and they can help to plan all this movement towards green and smart mobility. We would like to emphasize very much the practical part. So in our future projects, pilots will be a must. So we would like to see practical solutions. We would like to see pilots and testing solutions, new solutions for renewable fuels, for instance, but not only. And then, of course, all this spatial and transport planning. So what to do, how to do, where to do, and how to make this element work. Then, as I promised also some information concerning timing. So we had our kickoff some days ago, and we started to share information. We have tutorials. We have different online elements for partner search. We have these tutorials which help future applicants to understand the topics. And we will continue in November with a pre-launch of the call. We will have some webinars to meet potential applicants and to explain even more what to do, how to do. We will have then in December, we start consultations already. So a project idea form has to be filled in, and then we try to help as much as possible potential applicants to discuss about their specific idea, or how to fit ideas to the program expectations, and then hopefully the program document will be approved, and so in early 2022 we can officially launch our first call. So I tried to be short. There would be a lot to discuss, but maybe we have still the possibility to ask questions, to enter in details, and therefore I tried to be rather shorter in order to give the possibility to ask questions and still to discuss maybe. So thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you very much, Attila. That is good news, I think, for many of our listeners. And of course, this program is the one who's covering all of our regions and actors in the Baltic Sea and in the BSSSC family. So it's also both the European Union countries and the non-EU countries, Norway and Russia, as part of the program. I wanted just to ask you follow-up questions with regard to what we have already also touched upon, is that we are aiming at greater or more involvement of the end users, or letting that say the projects be focused on how real demands in the public in the different regions, the cities. And also I wonder if you could say a few words if the young people like Nikolai and his friends, if they want to really approach and make a project or get financing for their ideas, is there now possibility for them to join, to take contact and be part of the new program with ideas like they presented with the green buses and so on? So is there any new things coming with regard to be able to access the program if you are a little bit smaller and not so familiar with the program?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think they are welcome, and I can say from my experience, having a lot of projects and a lot of young people are involved already in our projects, either in the implementation, either part of there are different elements helping old people, for instance, young people. It was a discussion about skills, so that we have different digital solutions, but if some people cannot use them, then it's what's help. And then we had a project where young people helped elderly people to how to use different digital solutions. Then I think I could mention our small projects. So beside the big core projects, how we will call them in the next period, we will have small projects, which is an invitation for newcomers and of course young people also who may not have much experience with EU funded projects, but it can give an easier access. It's a smaller project, and it's their pilots are not obligatory, but still they can get to know the program. They can make the first step towards understanding this this world of EU funded projects. Then maybe another important element that we emphasize very much to identify target groups. So young people can be a specific target group of different projects, and then we speak a lot about innovation, about digitalization, and this is the world of the young people. So they have ideas, they know how to use, they know how to use data, they can help a lot. I am sure in this way towards this future mobility, green and smart future mobility. So that would be my first reaction to your question. I hope I could reflect on some essential parts.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was just what I was looking for. And of course, this new aspect that we have with the small projects, and hopefully they are not that small, but still smaller than the regular usually projects, and that we really want to engage then new target groups into our program, and that this can finance also very good projects within smart and green mobility. So we are coming late. There's a next post in the Baltic Sea Region, the BSSSC annual conference is starting already at 12. There will be then a new plenary session, and I think there was a share in the chat where you could click to join the plenary room, and then at about 22 or at 12:30 there will be also a summing up where the young people in BSSSC Youth will give you a little bit brief feedback from all the sessions that have been now going on in parallel. I'm sorry that we didn't have very much time for questions and the discussion that we have been indicating in the program, but I hope that you will have had a good round of input for your further work, and that it is possible for you to team up if you have ideas to continue to share, to make use of the knowledge and good practices we have, and also by using them as a stepstone for the next future cooperation, if it is to use this Interreg BSR program presented or any other program or financial means that is needed. So we encourage very much people to contact each other, to look into the presentations again. It is also recorded, so I guess we can go back and listen once more to some of the presentations. And also the contact information will be then in the presentations. So I would just say that thank you to all the speakers for their contributions. I also would thank all the listeners for their patient listening in, and hopefully you got inspired. And now we will then take 2 minutes, and then we will join in the plenary hall. So I wish you all a nice day still, and the weekend coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So you click the link in the chat, so you got back to the plenary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oni